Hey guys, what's up? We've got so much to cover in this vlog. Holy shit. Where to start? Man, the Rogue One trailer. I guess we'll start there. The Rogue One trailer, the final Rogue One trailer came out yesterday. I didn't talk about it because I was freaking dead and I just did not feel like doing a vlog. But holy crap. I'm just gonna pull it up here and I don't even care if I get content ID. We are talking about this and you are going to stare at my awkward reflection as we do. Dude, holy crap. Look at this planet that we still don't have, that we still don't know what it is. Look at this flashback to Galen Erso being picked up by the Empire probably right after Revenge of the Sith. And apparently the Death Troopers have been active. Dude, there are Death Troopers here. This is after Revenge of the Sith because the Empire must be formed if Director Krennic and the Death Troopers are active. I mean, at least I'm guessing. And it's like, so that means the sorry, I'm kind of freaking out. The Death Troopers, that means they've been active from like right after Revenge of the Sith up until Rogue One, and that's pretty insane. I didn't think the Death Troopers are actually, I didn't think that they had been around that long. But yeah, so Galen Erso telling Jyn Erso exactly what a father would if he was about to be kidnapped for like the next decade and probably wouldn't see her again, and he was probably going to be forced into doing evil things that she would have no knowledge of and think that he's an evil person even though he's not. So he tells her, whatever I do it to protect you, which is exactly what you would want to say. And so this scene looks amazing. And then you got Krennic and his squad of Death Troopers, and dude, he looks like a mess there. And Krennic looks like he's slightly younger. Maybe his hair isn't really graying yet. And that, again, that places this in the time period where this would be happening. But yeah, just skimming through this trailer again, there's young Jyn, and then it cuts to what I'm guessing is her imprisoned on Jedha. And then we got this dude who is definitely Snoke, and then Jedha again, and this familiar droid, which you've probably seen before, that class of droid, which I can't remember, that's been in God knows how many iterations of Star Wars. And then dude, up here, right above the freaking town of Jedha. By the way, Jedha is confirmed to be a moon, not a planet, so that's pretty cool. Star Destroyer. That just gives you the sense of scale of a Star Destroyer. Usually Star Destroyers are up in the sky at a distance. No, this Star Destroyer right over a town, it just shows you how freaking big they are, which is, I love that. That is super cool. And then there's Snoke again before this rebel breaks into the cell and busts Jyn out of prison. And look at that guy. And yeah, then it cuts to the freaking destroyed Jedi statue, and it really makes me wonder, what is the time period for this? Is this ancient, like before, because we know that, the moon of Jedha, they celebrate the Jedi way and the Force. So it's like, when was this built and when was it destroyed? Was this built and, destroyed like prior to the Phantom Menace, like a long time ago, probably Old Republic era, maybe? Or is this actually just, was this just taken down and destroyed right after Revenge of the Sith and the Jedi were outlawed and all, and wiped out? Because, that would still, I guess, somewhat explain how it's obviously buried by sand if it's been there for decades, because this is about, like, almost 20 years after Revenge of the Sith. So, I mean, it makes me wonder, but it's super cool, and it definitely gets the point across to those people in the theater who actually look and realize these are not just rock formations. That is a destroyed and fallen Jedi statue, and that's super cool. Probably around what used to be a Jedi temple on Jedha. Some have speculated. We got Jyn in this U-Wing, which I'm pretty sure is a U-Wing, because you can see the U-Wing right there, and then you can see similar surroundings outside the window. We've seen that shot before. The Rebel base here on Yavin, which is awesome. And then Cassian there, Jyn, and they're all talking about Galen Erso. And by the way, Galen Erso, look at that base, man. That is just so damn good. Anyway, yeah, so Galen Erso right there, Mads Mikkelsen. Look at my awkward-ass reflection. You can see this costume, like Galen Erso just looks badass. I don't know why. Mads Mikkelsen just in that suit, that looks so damn cool. And I think that's great. And it makes me wonder, what is Jyn, or I almost said Jyn, what is Galen Erso's role in designing the Death Star? Did he just design the super laser maybe? Did he design the majority of it? I mean, did he, like, I really am curious when Rogue One finally drops in December and we all go see it, like, what is his role actually in designing the Death Star? Because it's like, if I were to guess, it would be the super laser powered by the giant kyber crystals, but it makes me wonder, what else did he do for the design of the Death Star? And then there's Krennic again, in a pretty similar outfit. So this might actually not be too far away from the original flashback. Like, this might not actually even be in present day, because it looks like, again, you know, Krennic is in like the same sort of outfit that he was when he picked up Galen. So there's that. But yeah, the Death Star rising up. Look at that. I mean, dude, this is just, and you got more shots of Bodhi Rook and Baze and Chirrut. And if I can actually skim, it's kind of hard to do this with the left hand. But Bodhi reveals, in his first bit of dialogue that we hear from him, that their call sign for doing this mission, for stealing the Death Star plans for their team, is Rogue One, and that's why the movie is titled Rogue One. So we finally have an answer to that out of that question. The U-Wing looking a little bit better than it did in previous trailers. This shot of it taking off on Yavin, that's awesome. And there's K2 again. Seriously, one of the best CGI characters I've honestly ever seen. That just looks incredible. And then, yeah, so that's where Bodhi Rook tells them the call sign, what it is. I don't know if, like, somebody tells them what their call sign is, or if he's, like, just picking it on the fly. I'm guessing they're told what it is. But our first shot of Vader, we saw that in the Celebration reel or the Celebration teaser, the leaked Celebration Europe teaser. So now we got this in its full quality, and that's pretty cool, upside down. And Krennic talking to Vader. Dude, it's Darth Vader. Live action, this is happening, and check out the Death Star shot here. I mean, this is just fantastic. I mean, you have the War Room here, and you know, you have all these original trilogy characters, Mon Mothma, this guy who I can never remember the name of, and I had it on the tip of my tongue before I started this vlog and totally forgot. But then Bistan over here, our freaking albino Mon Calamari, check him out. It's pretty great. Bail Organa doesn't seem to be in this room, though, and Bail Organa is in the movie. And speaking of Bail Organa, we'll talk about the Ahsoka book in a little bit. But yeah, Mon Mothma. We have the return of the AT-STs, and look at that squadron of stormtroopers. That just looks so good. And then got knockoff Wampa running by as well. So there's that. And all of this is taking place on Jedha, obviously, if you guys weren't aware. And then check out the robotic foot that Mr. Saw Gerrera has. I'm not looking forward to making that in Lego. That's going to be a real time. But yeah, Saw Gerrera, dude. Holy crap, man. Just look at our first Clone Wars originating character brought to the big screen, played by Forrest Whitaker. It's just so great. Like, I mean, if I were to think that after the Clone Wars, Saw Gerrera joined the rebellion to fight the Empire in 20 years of war, this is what he would look like. I mean, he's got a suit just to keep him alive. One of his feet got either cut or blown off at one point. I mean, this is a war-torn guy. I mean, Saw Gerrera has not had it easy since, you know, the Battle of Onderon, when Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan came to liberate them. And I mean, that was, you know, I mean, it's just so damn great, man. I love Saw Gerrera being in this movie. I love this shot before, you know, the music really amps up and, you know, Chirrut, like, plays, you know, puts his staff down. And, you know, I mean, this is obviously where Jyn is motivating them, because they're about to take on, like, you know, the biggest heist in galactic history and are all probably going to die, and they know it. But yeah, then, dude, Scarif. Look at this. Look at Scarif. It's so amazing. I cannot wait for DICE to put this in Battlefront. And I don't care what you say about Battlefront. It is a first-person Star Wars game, and it's got all of today's graphics. And I mean, you can say what you will about DICE's and EA's decisions to handle the DLC, but I, for one, am super excited to play on Scarif, especially because now, look, we got the actual, like, we can see what that spire is that Jyn was standing on in the last couple trailers, where she, you know, the TIE fighter comes down. She's clearly on top of this base, and man, just Scarif just looks so damn great. And I'm going to say it right now, you guys know how much I love The Force Awakens. I don't ignore the fact that, of course, you know, it took a lot of inspiration from A New Hope, but one thing that did bother me about The Force Awakens were, you know, it's great that we got new planets, right? But it's like Takodana was basically Naboo without Theed. I mean, you know, Starkiller Base was just a winter forest, practically, the entire planet. And just a bunch of glaciers. It was practically Ilum. And then, speaking of Ilum, we'll talk about that in a second. And then you have, then you had freaking Takodana, which I already mentioned, and I'm just totally screwing up. Jakku, which was just another desert planet. But this, you know, Scarif being a tropical planet, and of course this has all already been said God knows how many times, but this is just, I love how this planet looks. It's just so unique, and it looks like something straight out of the prequels, and I don't care what anyone says, the prequels are still you know, what made me a Star Wars fan. I still love those movies to the death. And, you know, to have a planet like Scarif kind of almost look like it's something taken from those films is just, I love that. The style of Scarif and how it's handled, it's just so damn great looking. And yeah, then we've got another shot of K2 looking amazing. Jyn in the Imperial ground crew costume, and what appears to be, she's got the visor folded down. I didn't know those helmets could do that. So I mean, there's that. And then we've also got Cassian fitting into a tiny ass Imperial officer costume, and so that's pretty great looking. It's a tiny ass little Imperial officer suit, and he can barely fit. And then another shot of Chirrut, and he's got a really great line of dialogue there. I forget the name of these guys, but they did unveil that at a convention. I think it was Comic-Con or Celebration Europe. It was one of those two. Anyway, Chirrut and Baze fighting the stormtroopers on Jedha. I mean, please. Baze, by the way, I'm not looking forward to making him. That's going to be really challenging, modding the Thorin hairpiece, sculpting a backpack, all the gluing, and that's going to be involved. That is going to be insane. I mean, Baze, oh my god. That's going to be fun. But yeah, so anyway, moving on, we've got another shot. Is this Jedha at night, maybe? I still don't know what planet this is, or maybe it's Eadu or Eadu. I know that's another planet that's going to be in Rogue One that I still can't remember how to pronounce. Y-Wings! There's that. And yeah, I mean, I mean, please, the Battle of Scarif, more shots of that. Got some shore troopers in the background of this shot, if I can freaking, there it is. Shore troopers, check them out. You can see them briefly in this trailer. And then I love this here with Bodhi looking like he's about to die. I'm guessing that he might die here because he's kind of got that look like he's about to. And then in the next shot, you can kind of see him like making a run for this shuttle. So maybe he dies there. Maybe he actually makes it. And he'll probably die later, though. Who are we kidding? And then this shot of what looks like a massive Imperial base orbiting what looks like Scarif. Probably. You can kind of see the clouds of what probably is Scarif. If I were to guess, this guy's dead. He's screaming. I mean, he's not making it. He's dead. But I love that shot, though. And check out, I mean, all the cruisers up in space. I mean, this... Oh my god. This is what was missing from The Force Awakens, were the space battles of this scale and just having two different fleets going at each other. I mean, that is what makes space battles for me. It's not just X-Wings and TIE Fighters going at it. It's actually having the fleet and the main cruisers leading the fleet and the frigates. That is what it's about for me. And to see that in Rogue One, I mean, it just looks so great. Another shot of K2 and then that shuttle that we've seen before shooting down on them. Cassian and Sergeant Pow in the background. Probably won't be able to make him in time for the showcase, but he's still there. Bodhi looking at what appears to be, like, this is total speculation, but if I were to guess, Jedha is probably one of the first planets that the Death Star was tested on, or I'm sorry, one of the first moons, because Jedha is officially confirmed to be a moon, and it looks like maybe Jedha is being hit by a less than fully operational Death Star. And that's how in the last trailer we saw the planet being destroyed. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. And I have no concrete, evidence that that's actually the real deal, of course. But that's what I were to guess. That's what's happening in this shot. Sorry, I was kind of ignoring the best shot in the trailer. Dude, Vader. What is there to say? I mean, we all knew what Vader was going to look like, but to actually see him and to have Vader in this film and seeing this shot, just seeing Darth Vader in a modern day film, I mean, what, this is just, dude, makes you wonder, is this a scene where he kills Krennic? I mean, he's killing Krennic, right? I mean, Krennic is the head of the Death Star security, and then the plans get stolen. I mean, Krennic is dying. I mean, that's going to happen. I mean, again, that's speculation, but it's not really. Again, who are we kidding? But dude, I mean, the most important character of all of Star Wars right there. I don't care if you say it's Luke. It's Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. And to have him just, I mean, as a Star Wars fan, I can't put into words how great this is. I was kind of hoping for it to be like a shot of him like coming off of a shuttle and then igniting his lightsaber, but they're still not giving it to us yet. And again, I mean, I'm still really holding out hope that Vader is going to do some serious damage and slaughter half of the characters. As awful as that sounds, you have to explain where they all went, and if they were to all be mowed down by Vader himself, that is a really meaningful way to go, honestly. Even though Vader did kill like thousands of people, over the course of the the Galactic Civil War spanning from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope. So I guess they would not exactly be unique, but it's still, I mean, that would be a really cool scene. I'm guessing that maybe it's the sequence where the rain is coming down really heavy that we saw in the Celebration Europe, like behind the scenes reel. And then this shot, by the way, looks like what might be the death of our first Clone Wars character brought to live action here, because the building is collapsing behind him and he's saying what sound like final words to me. Maybe Saw actually dies here because he says, "Save the rebellion, save the dream." It's like, man, they're going to give us a Clone Wars character and they're going to take it right back. I mean, because he probably doesn't make it out of Rogue One, if I were to guess, and that's what this shot looks like. And I mean, I have a couple, I mean, Anakin, of course, knew Saw Gerrera, and to have Vader personally kill him and then reveal to him as he's doing it that he is Anakin Skywalker, that would be a really meaningful scene, but it's probably not going to happen. He'll probably die in this collapsing building, if I were to guess. I mean, that's what this shot is showing us. But damn, I mean, and then, dude, look at this wide shot of Scarif, the AT-ACTs, the U-Wing, everything about this is just perfect, and I can't wait to actually do this in Battlefront. It's going to be so freaking badass, man. And then Baze and Chirrut running from one of the AT-ACT's legs, which is insane, and I'm guessing Chirrut probably dies, or maybe Baze, I don't know. Because, I mean, that doesn't look, that looks really bad. And you can kind of see the foot coming down, and it would be really sad if one of them gets crushed by an AT-ACT leg. There's my reflection again. Hi, how are you? And then it cuts to the title card, of course, and just, dude, holy crap for a final trailer. I mean, they didn't show a ton of Vader, which is what we were all hoping for, but of course that's for the better. But damn, everything about that trailer, visually, the dialogue, the music, the world building, Rogue One is shaping up to be one of the best Star Wars films ever made from the looks of it. I mean, this looks incredible, and I can't wait for the emotional weight to the whole film as all the characters, you know, most of the characters are dying, because again, guys, they're not going to make it out. I mean, I would be pretty surprised if, you know, if they all die, because I'm guessing maybe one or two of them make it out, but it's going to be a pretty dark film, and I just cannot wait to see how all this comes together, because this final trailer is, dude. Anyway, there are things to talk about. This vlog is only like halfway over because we still have other depressing things to talk about, like the X-Men Apocalypse figures not making the mark. Yeah, so guys, I'm just gonna tell you right now the figures aren't canceled. I am planning on finishing them probably in January, February of 2017 now. I hate to break that news to you guys because I know there's a lot of you out there that still really want to see the finished X-Men Apocalypse minifigures and the showcase, and hey, I'm one of those people. I want to finish the figures and put it behind me because it is, X-Men Apocalypse was a huge flag planted in 2016, but the problem was it came out literally only 2 weeks after Civil War, and then Suicide Squad was a little over a month after that. So I had a choice to make, and that was to put off the X-Men figures until after Brick Fair. And after Brick Fair, I came back, got, you know, I started on the X-Men Apocalypse minifigures, but it was only after Brick Fair that I was actually going to legitimately make my attempt to finish them. But guys, it's still 10 figures. And I want to just say this, you know, now, Star Wars is the closest thing to my heart, right, in terms of what it is I do. Star Wars is it. So Rogue One, of course, to me is the most important thing for me to do right now. And then you're going to say in a second, okay, but what if Rogue One is still pretty far off? You still have time. Well, I'll talk about that because Doctor Strange is coming out. But then you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DC Extended, you know, Universe. DC Cinematic Universe. Why do we have to call it DC Extended Universe? DCEU. It's just like, why can't we just... Anyway, those three things are, you know, those are the three things that get me most excited to make custom minifigures. Those three. It's Star Wars, Marvel, and DC. But right now, you know, making 10 figures might have been something that I did in April of this year because I stopped everything I was doing. I mean, education took a dip. I mean, I didn't talk to anyone really that month. It was me just sitting here at my desk, just doing nothing but just sitting here making those 11 figures. And then I barely got the showcase out on time. Even when I stopped everything that I was doing that month and did nothing really but work on those figures, I got the showcase out a day later. Because I was that close. I was cutting it that close. Even after spending an entire month of doing nothing but working on those figures, I barely finished Bucky in time to do the showcase, and it ended up going out a day later. And thankfully, it didn't end up mattering because you guys freaking loved that showcase, which you know makes me really, really glad because you know all the effort paid off. You guys loved the showcase. I think it's like 1 million something people have seen it now. The video just recently crossed 1 million views. Thank you guys so much for that. But it's like that's not something I can just do every other month. You know, I can do it for the things that matter the most to me, and those 3 things being Star Wars, Marvel, and DC, and that's why I just said that. But the Fox Cinematic Universe, the Fox's X-Men Cinematic Universe doesn't fall under that category of importance for me. And so when Doctor Strange and Rogue One are right there, and I've got 2.5, 3 weeks to make 4 Doctor Strange figures, but I still have 10 X-Men figures to finish, guys, I gotta stop. You know, I gotta stop and this is where it becomes a hobby for me, right? I gotta stop and make the figures that matter the most to me. And those are the Doctor Strange figures and the Rogue One figures. But I have good news to those of you who do want to see the X-Men figures finished, like I do. There's not going to be the Disco Suit. This is not going to be the Achievement Hunter figures. You're going to see these figures finished because I'm not making anything. You know, of course, I'm always making something, right? There are always figures to make. Even when I'm not making figures for everything that's coming out that I'm excited for, there are always side figures that I want to do. Nathan Drake from Uncharted 4 is one. Legends of Tomorrow figures, I wanted to finally do those for Season 2, because Season 2, I saw the premiere, and unlike, you know, The Flash and Arrow, Season 2, I mean, that premiere for Legends was actually pretty great. And so, I'd love to make some Legends of Tomorrow figures finally. And I'm glad I waited, too, because Season 1, you know, I think Season 2 is definitely going to top Season 1. So again, I'm glad, you know, I waited. But anyway, Jay Garrick from The Flash, the real Jay Garrick, Grand Admiral Thrawn, who I've already made the hairpiece for. I've been sitting on that for a while, and then the Forward Unto Dawn Master Chief sculpt by Brick Affliction, and this was actually molded and casted by Josiah Bricks Alive, who's currently running Brick Affliction, and I would love to paint that. I have a Spartan Veil sculpt from Tanner on Flickr from Halo 5 Guardians, which I would love to paint up. You know, there's so much to do, so I'm never not making figures, but from January until April of next year, before I start working on Guardians of the Galaxy figures and other projects that are going to be smashing me in the summer, I have really, there's no major movie or release coming out that I really have a deadline for, so I can finish the X-Men figures and knock off a few of the figures that are on that list. So I can spend January up until March doing that. I can spend January working on the X-Men figures and Assassin's Creed figures, and you know, maybe again I might be able to knock off 1 or 2 of those figures off of the list of side figures that I'd love to make. But as it stands right now, the schedule, what's looking like, you know, is going to work. The new adjusted schedule for custom minifigures is going to be Doctor Strange, 4 Doctor Strange figures. The showcase, I'm going to try to make these 4. Right now, I'm just currently assembling the parts to make them, so I haven't really started on them just yet. But I'm going to do my best to finish those and get the showcase up by November 3rd, which is in about 3 weeks, a little less. And it's only 4 figures. I've made more figures than that in less time, but they're going to be challenging figures. There's going to be some sculpting involved, and there's also going to be a lot of fabric work. I just placed a pretty big Cape Madness order for those. So Doctor Strange figures over these next 2-3 weeks. The project that I'm stopping X-Men for to do is going to be pretty insane, man. And I do want to mention, actually, I'll just go ahead and tell you the rest of the roster. So then, of course, the Rogue One showcase I want to have up by December 15th, the night of the movie's release. And so I have to, as soon as I'm done with Doctor Strange, I got to immediately pick up and do Rogue One. And Rogue One is going to be another set of really challenging figures, especially characters like K2SO, Saw Gerrera, and Baze. You know, it's those 3 that have me a little concerned, because those are going going to require a lot of time to pull off correctly. So I mean, this is, you know, it's really pressing. And then, you know, you throw in all these other personal things that are going on in my life right now that I really prefer not to discuss. You know, that I gotta worry about doing too. And it's just, there's so much that the X-Men figures just lost their place. Their slot, you know, just disappeared. And that's really all I can say. Now, to those of you who do want to see the X-Men Apocalypse figures and the progress I have made, I do plan on probably doing an update video to convey everything that I'm saying to you watching now to everyone over on my main channel who is not aware of this channel, because they need to know. You know, everybody, I want to make sure everybody, you know, who is commenting on my Rogue One reviews, where's the X-Men Apocalypse Showcase, are aware that I'm going to now, unfortunately, have to push it off until January of next year. And so that is currently where it stands. And to just give you an update on those figures, guys, I want to go ahead and show you. It's not, you know, you're not really going to be able to see them that well, but the Professor X, done. I did finish Professor X, so he is done. And then another figure that I did finish, believe it or not, the second figure I finished was Psylocke. She's done. This entire figure is finished and, you know, ready to be in a video, but then it's everyone else who's not. So Apocalypse, I don't know what the hell that was. Freaking fruit flies. Anyway, did one just like fly in my mouth? Shit. Anyway, Apocalypse, you can see Apocalypse is, you know, pretty far along, right? Like, I've made a lot of progress on him. He looks great. I mean, he turned out so awesome so far, but there's nothing on the back. So, you know, he's not done. We'll take Cyclops. You know, Cyclops did a lot of work on his torso and his head. Still have to paint the strap on the top of his torso. I have to do the rest of his arms, the back of his torso, the legs. Not done. You know, Jean Grey, I pretty much did the majority of her. Everything is done on Jean Grey except for the legs. You know, Nightcrawler, I just started on. I did his head and his hairpiece, but no time to do anything else. And then Storm, I painted, I did her entire cape piece, painted that in a dark gray color, made her mohawk, painted her face, did the front of her torso, no time for anything else. Quicksilver, since you saw the first preview photo of him a few months back, I did his legs, and they're pretty much done, no time to do his back. You know, you got Mystique, I still have to finish up her arms, back of her torso, and her legs, no time to do that. Magneto, did the majority of him, did a lot of work on his helmet, a lot of detailed work on his helmet. Still have to do the second half, like the lower half of his helmet. I also have to do the work on his legs, and he also has a waist cape. No time for that. And guys, something else I want to point out is a lack of reference. Fox did that. They did that final shot in X-Men Apocalypse of all of them in these costumes, but they didn't release any reference. And sure, we got some concept art, which really doesn't help because that's all inaccurate now and doesn't really do much for me because a lot of things were changed. But you know, there's no time for me to finish them now. It's got to be over the next 3 weeks, Doctor Strange. From Doctor Strange to Rogue One, nothing but me working on those figures. And that's going to be a lot of figures to do, probably 10 to 13 figures. I haven't come up with the actual lineup yet. And then, you know, it's freaking another fruit fly, shit. And then, you know, right after that, I'm going to be going and doing my best to put together my final, like, you know, my final end of the year video that I always do, and that's something I always stop and make sure I do because, you know, it's a big deal for me to make sure I do an end of the year video, to put everything together in one final wrap up video and then just put it out there, right? Because that's just something that's important to me that I make sure I make time at the end of December to stop and do. So yeah, who's calling me? Oh, it's my sister. That'll have to wait. Sorry, Rosa. Anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much the announcements, guys, in terms of how the schedule is shifting. This vlog is going to be probably one of my longest of the year. Hopefully not, because there's still some stuff to talk about. I did start on Ghost Rider. I thought I showed him in the last vlog, but apparently I didn't. This is Ghost Rider, the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I did start on this figure because I wasn't really planning on making him until I saw the season premiere a few weeks ago, and then the episode that followed, and I mean, mean, he just looks absolutely amazing on the show, and so I wanted to make him in Lego, and so I painted up a Ghost Rider headpiece, and I'm really proud of the way the face turned out. I mean, it looks really awesome. I really wanted to see if I'd be able to do it, and so I did. I took a little time away from working on X-Men to do this, but I just really felt the creative drive to start on a Ghost Rider figure and actually see if I would be able to nail, you know, the look of him onto this minifigure head, you know, that is of course glued into this Ghost Rider, you know, like fire piece. And yeah, and something I really loved about this fire piece was just that that made me want to use Lego's official Ghost Rider piece was the transparency of it. The trans orange color is really what sold me on wanting to use this piece, and it really worked out. And so again though, no time for the back of his torso, no time for the rest of his legs, and some of you guys have even asked, oh, are you going to do his Dodge Charger? I think that's what it is. I'm not a car person. No, not going to do that. You know, me and Legoholic really haven't been in touch recently. The last time I think I talked to him was sometime last year. So I mean, I wouldn't contact him for something like that now. You know, and there's really no time for me to do a full-blown Ghost Rider showcase anyway. I'm just going to do him when the time comes to finish him. So he's kind of like, you know, the side figure that needs to be finished at some point. And then some of you will also be wondering, hey, what about Enchantress? Well, Enchantress is halfway done. I have to do her legs, but there's no time for this either, because whatever time I put into custom minifigures right now has got to go into Doctor Strange and then Rogue One. So I'm not going to be finishing Ghost Rider, and I'm not going to be finishing Enchantress anytime soon either. But you know, the progress that I have made on these figures, the majority of it can already be seen on social media. You know, I've already posted, you know, previews for a lot of my X-Men figures that you've probably already seen by now, excluding the likes of like Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, you know, Storm, the ones that I have less progress on. So yeah. What else? Holy crap, more to talk about. Damn. Gabriel Luna, who plays Robbie Reyes on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he saw the photo, he liked it and retweeted it, and that was super awesome, really cool that he saw it. And then Felipe Smith, who's writing a lot of the Ghost Rider comics, and I can't remember which runs that he's done, he saw it, and he really liked it, and thought that was super awesome. So Twitter is a great place. And then also, new shelves, man. Check this out. My dad, he put up these new shelves, my dad and I, over the weekend, and it turned out pretty great, because if you probably have seen my room in previous vlogs that I've done, you know, you've seen that I have shelves like this, but I also had a set sitting in my closet that had just been sitting in there for the past year. So finally we whipped these out, and all the stuff that I didn't have room for in my room went on these shelves. So that includes like all these new Marvel Legends figures that I picked up recently, and then also these multiverse figures, Suicide Squad art book, all the autographs that I picked up from Star Wars Weekends in 2013, Minecon autographs in that book, and then all these Funko figures that I didn't have room for, along with a bunch of different figures, an old-ass Lara Croft statue, I don't even remember why I bought that, in 2013, and then a couple of the Lego sets that I did not want to put in storage, because I actually do really like the Sanctum Sanctorum, the Batmobile, and Giant Man up there, along with some of the 3.75 inch, you know, the 3 3/4 inch Black Series figures. So, yeah, what else? Ahsoka. Yeah, that. So, finally, after waiting the better part of 2016, the Ahsoka novel finally came out, and I read through it. Those of you guys who don't know about this, the Ahsoka novel is an entire, like, 400-page novel that covers Ahsoka's experience and what she's doing right now, or not right now, a year after Revenge of the Sith. So this book picks up a year after Revenge of the Sith. Ahsoka is planet hopping, trying to avoid the Empire, and I'm not going to spoil any of it, but she runs into a pretty big character. She reunites with a pretty big character, both of which do not tell her what happened during the events of Revenge of the Sith. And she pretty much thinks everyone is dead and that she's alone, and she spends the majority, like 80% of this book, is spent with the natives of a new planet that she's residing on called Raeda. And, you know, so, I mean, it was pretty good, not the most eventful book, and I listened to the audiobook, which is really great, because the audiobook on Audible is actually narrated by Ashley Eckstein herself. And of course, Ashley Eckstein, to those of you who don't know, is the voice of Ahsoka herself. And so, I mean, to have her do the audio version of the Ahsoka novel was perfect and really helped, you know, and that was great because I was able to make some, you know, work on the X-Men figures while listening to that these past few days. I finished it recently and I really liked it. There was a lot in the book that I thought was awesome, you know, Ahsoka trying to feel through the Force and feeling nothing but darkness, and, you know, a lot of really interesting stuff. And then the book ends with setting up, you know, what she does in between the time of this book up until Rebels. And I mean, I was really, you know, for like, this is actually the first book that I honestly, you know, sat through and listened to and partially read for new canon, and I thought it was a really great entry point. And, you know, to know what happened to Ahsoka during the events of Revenge of the Sith is just something that I really wanted to find out, you know, ever since the Clone Wars started when I was a kid in 2008. So this book doesn't go over it entirely, but they do tease a couple of the things that her and Captain Rex did during Revenge of the Sith. Like you might have heard before, like on Mandalore, they cover that a little bit. And then also, what did Ahsoka and Rex do after Order 66, and they cover that just a little bit in the book. And so it doesn't really elaborate on a lot that happened during her time during Revenge of the Sith, but there's plenty that, you know, that's pretty much the entire book covers plenty of what she's doing a year after. And so it's definitely pretty interesting having Ahsoka, who I never even thought would survive through the Clone Wars, yet let alone fight Anakin now as Darth Vader, to see what she's doing and how she's reacting to the new Empire, and her, you know, her being and fighting stormtroopers. Just something I think is just so cool, and I never thought would happen. And her Togruta tails have actually grown a little bit too, even a little bit longer than they were in the Clone Wars. She's like, I think Ahsoka's like 16, she's like 17, 18 now in the book, so that's pretty cool. And then the Ahsoka Funko Pop came out, and to be honest with you, I'm not just saying this because I'm a huge Ahsoka fan, just because of the color palette and just the way this figure looks. This is hands down my favorite Funko figure that I own, and that says a lot because of course I have all those Funko figures that couldn't even fit in my room, and then I picked up the Doctor Strange Funko figures pretty recently here, mostly for reference too, because, you know, there are no shots of the back of Caecilius, so the Funko figure is all I got. And then there are no shots of the back of the Ancient One, so the Funko figure is all I got. So I picked up the entire set of Doctor Strange Funko figures, excluding Doctor Strange himself, because I actually picked up the Comic-Con version like a couple months ago, and during you know, in July when those came out. So yeah, they're kind of not in their boxes right now, but yeah, so there's that. But then I made some room in here and displayed the Rogue One sets, the U-Wing here, the TIE Striker, and then I got the K2 buildable figure, and I built that and put it here, and this is super cool. It really made me want to build General Grievous, and maybe I actually should do that now that I have some more shelf space. But yeah, then I put the AT-ST, the hover tank, Krennic shuttle over here, and that's all there. My Ahsoka repaint again, check that out. And none of this is Lego, and the majority of you watching this video probably don't care. This is just my side thing that I do, you know, when I'm not working on minifigures or reviewing sets. So yeah, anyway, that is pretty much it for this vlog, guys. And just to cover the premieres of The Flash and Arrow, which I haven't talked about. Arrow, I was not impressed, and I still am not impressed. I'm still watching Arrow, even though I'm really not enjoying it. I'm just kind of keeping it on as I work on other stuff. So like this morning when episode 2 came out, I just kind of switched it on and just left it on there while I ordered parts for the Doctor Strange figures. And so that's pretty much what Arrow is to me. It's just a time killer now. That's how bad the show has gotten. I'm really hoping it'll start to improve over this season so I can actually appreciate it again. But yeah, then The Flash, I was kind of underwhelmed. They really didn't utilize Flashpoint to the fullest extent. If you ask me, they kind of wasted it. And then episode 2 was okay, had some real continuity problems with Jay Garrick from Earth 3 and how he suddenly gets in contact with Barry out of absolutely nowhere. But, you know, I'm hoping, you know, everything gets back on course. But what I was really impressed with was Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, the premiere for it. Damn. There were some plot holes in the Legends of Tomorrow Season 2 premiere. I mean, there were some things that weren't addressed, and there were a couple plot holes, but for the most part, I was genuinely impressed by that premiere. I mean, obviously you gotta be, right? Because that's the episode that gets everybody to start watching again, but I mean, I was still like, dude, that was awesome. I mean, that episode was great. Anyway, guys, that's it for this super long vlog. Thank you for sticking around for the entire thing, and I'm going to end it there. Thank you for being patient with me for the X-Men figures, but I can, again, promise that you're going to see some pretty badass Doctor Strange and Rogue One figures to come before I do finally circle back around for the second time to finally finish the damn X-Men figures. I'm going to go. See you later. All right. Bye!